Whether you're watching alone or with friends, finger food is a must requirement for every game day, and I have 3 recipes for you. Oh, and as an added bonus, each of these recipes comes with an amazing dipping sauce for chips or wings. First one up is our cheesy potato skins with an easy homemade ranch sauce, and I gotta say, this one tastes insane. Now to get started, we're gonna grab ourselves some thick cut bacon as well as a baking sheet. I'm gonna lay down 8 ounces or half of our bacon on that baking sheet, and then I'm gonna throw it in a cold oven and then set it to 450 degrees convection bake. It should take about 20 to 30 minutes. You want them to be really crispy in the end. While the bacon is in the oven, we're gonna now wash and prep our potatoes. I have about 8 russet potatoes here, and I went for a smaller size, so that way there's more individual portions in the end. Now to prep these, I'm gonna lightly wash them, getting any dirt off of them, and then with the fork, I'm gonna lightly pierce them as well. This is to prevent them from exploding if there's any steam that builds up in them. Now I'm gonna lay them down on a sheet of aluminum foil, hit them with a little bit of olive oil, wrap them up nice and tight, and then place them on a sheet tray and throw them in that same oven we just preheated, which is almost fully preheated at 450 degrees, but they'll bake in there for about 45 minutes. In the meantime, we're gonna get to work on shredding and chopping our ingredients. I have some medium cheddar as well as low moisture mozzarella, and we're gonna shred both of them until we get 1 cup of each. Now it's been 25 to 30 minutes since our bacon was in the oven, and as you can see, it's nicely crispy. I'm gonna pour that excess bacon fat in a container just for any other food project during the week, and then I'm gonna let our bacon fully cool. Once they're cooled, I'm gonna scrape them off the sheet tray and then stack them on top of each other and just run my knife through them once. Don't over chop them. You want them to be kind of chunky, and in the end, you will have this delicious, roughly minced bacon. Next, I'm gonna grab about 4 tablespoons of green onions, which is like 2 to 3 pieces, and I'm just gonna run my knife through them from the top of the greens to about halfway of the white. I'll next grab some chives and then chop about 2 tablespoons worth nice and small, followed by grabbing some fresh dill and then mincing just enough of it until you get 3 tablespoons worth. Now our potatoes have been in the oven for about 40 minutes. I'm gonna pull them out just to check them and to see if they're done. To do this, all I'm gonna do is just stick a toothpick through it, and if I can easily pierce the potato and pull it out, then they're fully cooked. I'm gonna remove them from the aluminum foil that they're in, and then I'm gonna let them cool down a little bit because they are ripping hot right now. In the meantime, let's make our ranch sauce. We're gonna grab a small bowl and then throw in 1 cup of Duke's mayo or any mayo, 1/4 of a cup of sour cream, 1/4 of a cup of buttermilk or whole milk. I'm using whole milk here because I didn't want to buy buttermilk. 1.5 tablespoons of lemon juice, 1 teaspoon of salt, 1 teaspoon of granulated onion powder, 2 teaspoons of granulated garlic powder, 1 pinch of MSG, optional because I know most people don't have that, 2 tablespoons of our minced chives, and 3 tablespoons of our minced fresh dill. Give that a very thorough mixing together, making sure everything is well incorporated, and now you have some of the best ranch sauce I've ever had in my life. Now I'm gonna grab our potatoes, which have cooled enough that we could handle them, and I'm gonna grab a large bowl as well. We're gonna cut all of our potatoes in half, and then we're gonna carefully scoop out the inside of them into the bowl. And you wanna be doing it really carefully like I am here. If you scoop out too much, the skin can't hold the structure of the potato, so it's gonna fall apart on you. Once you have all your potato flesh in a bowl and you have your outer potato shells on a sheet tray, we're now gonna grab that bowl and throw in 5 tablespoons of unsalted butter. Mix it around until the butter's fully melted. There should be enough residual heat in those potatoes to melt the butter. From here, we're gonna sprinkle in 1/2 teaspoon of salt, followed by a few cranks of black pepper, 1/2 of our medium cheddar cheese, as well as 1/2 of our low moisture mozzarella cheese, all of our bacon bits that we chopped, as well as all of our green onions too. Give it a very thorough mixing, and now this is your potato skin filling. Now we're gonna grab our potato skins, and all it's left to do is just stuff them with the filling. I'm just using a spoon and some clean fingers. I'm gonna make sure I'm pressing it in the filling so it fills up all those little crevices in there. All of your potato skins should be filled to the rim with our delicious filling. Also, as a quick little tip, if you wanted to prep this, you could stop here at this step and then throw it in the fridge. And then the day you want to cook it, you just take it out and throw it in the oven. But to finish these guys, I'm gonna grab the remaining medium cheddar as well as mozzarella cheese and just mix them together in a container. I'm now gonna sprinkle them on top of each of our potato skins and throw them in our oven that's set to 450 degrees for 15 to 20 minutes until the cheese is nice and bubbly. 15 minutes later, our potato skins are looking nicely bubbly and delicious. I'm gonna plate them up like so, and now you and your guests can enjoy how delicious they are, especially paired with our homemade ranch. Second one up is our meatball puff pastries with a bright, delicious tomato sauce. Think of this as like a mini meatball sub. Okay, so to get started on these meatballs, I'm gonna grab a large bowl and toss in half a pound of ground beef as well as half a pound of ground pork, half a cup of panko breadcrumbs, 1 tablespoon of dried oregano, 1/4 of a cup of Parmesan cheese, which I just freshly grated myself, 2.5 tablespoons of Italian parsley, which I just gave it a very rough mincing with my knife, running it through it a couple times, and that's it. Half a teaspoon of salt, a few cranks of black pepper, and 1 whole egg. Now I'm gonna put on my gloves and start mixing this sucker by hand. You wanna keep mixing until everything is fully combined and evenly spread out across the mixture. And I know you're wondering why I'm wearing a glove on the hand I'm not mixing with, and that's because I have a boo-boo on this hand and I didn't want the meat all up in the Band-Aid and all gross, so yeah. In the end though, you should have a nice, beautiful mixture of our meatball. Now I'm gonna quickly form these into mini meatballs, and it's actually way easier than you think. Just pinch a little bit of our meatball mixture, roll your hands together, and then you have a little ball. A meatball to be specific. Now I'm going for about a 1-inch meatball, but go for as big or small as you want. Once our meatballs are fully formed, we're gonna set them to the side and get to work on our tomato sauce. Now I'm gonna grab a 28-ounce can of San Marzano whole peeled tomatoes, and then I'm gonna throw in 1 teaspoon of chili flakes, 2 teaspoons of dried oregano, 2 teaspoons of sugar, and half a teaspoon of salt. I'll next grab my immersion blender and then I'll stick it in there, giving it a quick blending just to break up those tomatoes and fully mix all those ingredients together. And you can obviously use a regular blender here or a food processor. Now I'm gonna set this to the side, grab a small bowl as well as 1 white onion. I'm gonna cut the tip off of our onion and then peel the outside layer, and then I'm gonna grab our grater and we're gonna grate this whole onion. Doing this step will give our sauce a much more complex depth of flavor, but I will admit grating an onion is not the best experience. Wear some goggles because you probably will shed a tear. Now from here, we're gonna sear our meatballs. I'm gonna grab a large pan, I'm gonna set it to medium high to high heat, and then I'm gonna drizzle in a little bit of avocado oil. That's just my preferred high smoke point oil. You could use beef tallow or veggie oil or even olive oil, honestly. It's not really that important. But after pouring in 2 tablespoons of our oil of choice, we're gonna now layer our meatballs in the pan and sear them for 2 to 3 minutes. You really wanna hit them with some solid high heat to give you a nice crust on the bottom. 2 to 3 minutes later, you can see a nice crust has developed here. I'm gonna flip them all in the pan and then sear the other side for an additional 2 to 3 minutes. You can sear all the sides of the meatball, but that takes a lot of time in my opinion, so I just opt for searing 2 sides and that's it. Once the other side is nicely seared, I'm gonna move them over to our sheet tray, and as a reminder, these are not fully cooked yet. We're gonna cook them in the sauce very soon. But first, we gotta make our sauce. So in that same pan we seared the meatballs, I'm gonna keep all that oil and fat in there, and I'm gonna toss in our grated onion. And yes, my pan, which is a little too hot, but that's okay. The onions will cool it down. Now I'm gonna saute them for about 2 minutes, really until the moisture pulls out of them. And then I'm gonna throw in 2 cloves of crushed garlic. Give it a quick little mixing and incorporating with the onions. And now we're gonna pour in our can of whole peeled tomatoes that has all of our herbs and other spices in there. You're gonna mix our onions and our tomato sauce together. And now you're gonna let this sit at high heat for 2 minutes so it can reduce. If you have a lid or a splatter guard, I highly recommend you use it because there will be flying tomatoes everywhere. Once you've reduced it for 2 minutes, it's thickened up a little bit, but not a lot, but that's okay because we're gonna now throw all of our meatballs in there so they could fully cook in the sauce as it continues to reduce. After simmering this at low heat for 5 to 6 minutes, our sauce has nicely thickened and our meatballs are fully cooked. I'm gonna set our pan to the side so it could cool a little, and I'm gonna head on over to our oven and set to 400 degrees convection bake. And now I'm gonna grab our puff pastry. Now I'm gonna open it from its packaging, apply a little bit of flour on my cutting board as well as the dough itself, and then roll it out as much as I can. Once it's rolled out, I'm gonna now grab a pizza cutter and now cut it into perfect little squares. I'm gonna place each of those squares on a sheet pan with parchment paper, and I'm next gonna layer our meatball at the center of each square, and I'm gonna put a little bit of sauce on the top of it as well. I'm now gonna grab an egg and crack it into a small container, giving it a slight splash of water and mixing it together to give us a nice egg wash. I'll egg wash the outside of each of our pastries, and then I'm gonna hit it with some freshly grated provolone cheese before throwing it in our oven for 15 to 25 minutes. Oh, and don't forget to store that sauce because it makes for a great dipping sauce for chips. All those flavors from the beef and the sausage is now infused in that sauce. It's quite top notch. About 15 minutes later, I'm gonna pull them out of the oven and they're looking nicely cooked and crispy. I'm gonna hit them with a little bit of freshly grated Parmesan cheese on top, and I'm gonna plate them like so. And now you have these delicious meatball puff pastry little bites that has this homemade tomato sauce as well that pairs beautifully with each other. For our last recipe, we have classic nachos with some taco meat and a rich cheese sauce. To get started, we're gonna grab 1 pound of ground beef, specifically an 80-20 blend. So 80% of it is beef and 20% of it is fat, AKA flavor. Now I'm gonna grab our pan, setting it to medium-high heat, throw a little bit of olive oil in there, and then throw our beef so it could cook. Now with a wooden spoon, I'm gonna break up the beef into smaller bits. Make sure you're really smashing it as much as possible. You'll wanna keep cooking until the meat's fully cooked and most of that liquid is evaporated off. About 7 minutes later, most of the liquid is cooked off and our beef is fully cooked. I'm now gonna add 3/4 of a cup of beef stock, 1 tablespoon of tomato paste, 1 tablespoon of light brown sugar, and 1 taco seasoning packet or 3.5 tablespoons of my taco seasoning mix. I have a whole video as to why making your own taco seasoning is significantly better than using store-bought stuff. I'll link it down below so you can check it out, but if you want the ingredients for this sucker, I'll put it on screen right now. Now I'm gonna give that a very thorough mixing, and I'm also gonna hit it with 1/2 teaspoon of salt just to season this guy up, and we're gonna continue cooking this down a little bit just to thicken it. About 3 to 4 minutes at high heat should be more than enough. You can see here it's thickened nicely. I'm gonna pour that in a container, and now that's our ground beef for our nachos. Let's get to work now on our queso. To get our cheese sauce going, we're gonna first grab a large pot, setting it to medium-high heat, and we're gonna toss in 7.5 tablespoons of unsalted butter. Once the butter is melted, we'll toss in 2 cloves of crushed garlic, and yes, that garlic shot out of that garlic press in like 2 milliseconds. We'll also throw in 1/2 teaspoon of ground cumin, 1/2 teaspoon of smoked paprika, 1/4 teaspoon of turmeric, and 1/4 teaspoon of nutmeg. Give it a quick mixing, and then you're gonna toss in 3/4 cup of all-purpose flour. We'll next slowly pour in 2 cups of whole milk, and I'm doing this really a few tablespoons at a time. You'll notice the mixture will start to seize up and clump up really quickly. Just keep mixing and gradually adding in your milk until you've added about a cup in there, and then you can just throw the rest of the cup in all at once. Once it's mixed, we're also gonna throw in 1 cup of heavy cream and then give it a thorough mixing, but be careful because you might get hit with some splatter. Now at this point, we're gonna add our cheese. We have 2 3/4 cup of medium cheddar, as well as 1 heaping cup of Monterey Jack cheese. Both of them I shred by hand, and we're gonna throw our cheese in there 1 handful at a time, making sure to mix it in until it's melted before moving on to the next handful. In the end, you should have a beautiful thick cheese sauce. And now let's assemble our nachos. Now we're gonna grab a 1/4 sheet pan, and then we're gonna layer in our corn tortilla chips. I have yellow and white tortillas. It doesn't really matter which ones you choose. But after I have an initial layer, I'm gonna drizzle our cheese sauce over them. Admittingly, it's a little weird to work with, but just kind of drizzle it the best you can, and also throw down your shredded cheese. I forgot to do it on this layer, but I'll do it in the next. next. But I'll put another layer of tortilla chips followed by drizzling our cheese sauce over them and sprinkling our shredded cheese, continuing to do that for about 3 to 4 layers, as much as you can fit comfortably. Once you're done, we'll next grab our ground taco beef and we're gonna layer it at the very top, carefully making sure it doesn't spill over. Now from here, we're gonna throw that in our oven, which is set to 375 degrees for about 15 minutes. Oh, and I forgot to mention, you should have a lot of that cheese sauce left over. I did that on purpose. That cheese sauce is perfect for dipping tortilla chips in there as well if you want an additional appetizer. 15 minutes later, everything is nicely melted and reheated. I'm gonna sprinkle some chopped green onions, throw down a dollop of some sour cream on top, hit it with some tomatoes, though I kind of hate tomatoes on nachos, that's just me though, as well as a few pickled onions, and now you have delicious nachos with a beautiful taco ground meat, some beautiful cheese, and all these different layers of crunchy creaminess flavor. This is an easy crowd pleaser. No one will ever be complaining about having nachos at the party, and if they do, that's a bad friend. If you like these recipes, please check out my 3 dipping sauce recipes as well. They are also equally as perfect for any game day. Thank you for watching. Please hit the like and subscribe button. Have a wonderful rest of your day.